Imagine, for a moment, stepping into a world unlike anything we know today. A world untouched by cities, roads, or the hum of electricity. Picture yourself walking barefoot on soft, moss-covered earth, feeling the subtle rise and fall of hills beneath your feet, the faint vibration of an unseen river nearby. The air is fresh and cool, carrying the scent of wet stone and the faint perfume of wild flowers. Somewhere in the distance, the low rumble of waterfalls echoes against cliffs, mingling with the occasional call of a bird, unfamiliar in both tone and color. It is a world of quiet wonders, and yet, beneath its serene beauty, powerful forces lie hidden, waiting to remind humans of their fragility. This world existed round 50,000 years ago, long before written history, long before we could record the tales of our survival. Back then, people were scattered in small, wandering communities, following the rhythms of nature rather than imposing their own. They hunted, they gathered, and they truly listened to the winds, the rivers, and the sky. And yet, even in these quiet landscapes, disasters came. Sudden, profound, and sometimes terrifying. What would it have felt like to see the sky darken with ash or to hear the earth tremble beneath your feet? How did these early humans make sense of events far beyond their control? You might picture a small tribe, huddled near the edge of a forest, sensing a change in the air. A hunter pauses mid-step, his gaze fixed on the distant mountains. Something is different. Perhaps a subtle tremor rolls through the ground, or smoke curls upward in the horizon, soft and pale at first, then thickening. The animals to seem unsettled, birds scatter, small mammals scurry into burrows, and even the mighty herds of grazing animals shift direction unexpectedly. The hunter wonders, is this an omen, a sign from the world, or merely the natural ebb and flow of the land? And yet, no one can answer. All they can do is watch, wait, and prepare. These moments, quiet yet charged with tension, were not rare. Round this time, the planet itself was restless. Ice sheets advanced and retreated. Seas rose and fell, and volcanoes slumbered before waking in grand, fiery eruptions. Even the stars above held mysteries. Comets streaked across the night sky. Meteors blazed trails of fire, and at times, the heavens themselves seemed to tremble. Imagine standing beneath that vast, unpolluted sky, the Milky Way bright and infinite above you, while sensing that the earth beneath might shift at any moment. What thoughts would race through your mind? Fear, or required determination to survive? Perhaps all three. And yet, life continued. Children learned to track animals, following faint paw prints in the soil, while elders taught stories of survival tales that blended observation with imagination, instruction with wonder. A mother might point to the darkening clouds and say, "The wind carries a message," while a father shows the safest path through a river swollen with rain. Every experience became a lesson, every observation a clue, because survival demanded attentiveness, patience, and imagination, even today. We can feel echoes of that attentiveness when we pause to notice the wind, or watch a flock of birds shift direction without warning. Think of a quiet evening in that. Distant past, the sky is a deep, velvety indigo, dotted with countless stars. Round a small fire, the tribe gathers, their faces glowing in the flickering light. A young child leans against an elder, listening to tales of lands far away, stories passed down from ancestors who might have crossed rivers, mountains, or deserts in search of safety. The sounds of the forest at night, rustling leaves, the distant howl of a predator, the murmur of insects create a delicate symphony. And somewhere, far off, a volcano sleeps, silent for now, but poised to remind the world of its presence. We might wonder, as we imagine these scenes, how these early humans perceived the disasters that shaped their lives. Did they feel a sense of dread when unusual weather arrived. Did they notice subtle tremors in the earth and sense an impending event? Perhaps a family crossing a river felt an unfamiliar vibration beneath their feet, or a hunter paused to observe a flock of birds that suddenly changed course. How did they interpret these signs, when all knowledge came from observation, intuition, and stories whispered through generations? Curiosity is a timeless trait. Even 50,000 years ago, humans looked at the world and asked, why does this happen? What does it mean? Today, we can try to understand these events with science geology, archaeology, and anthropology all help us reconstruct the past. We know that volcanic eruptions sent ash clouds across vast regions, that sudden glacial meltwaters carved new river valleys, that asteroids may have streaked through the sky, leaving marks still visible on the Earth. Yet, science alone cannot capture the human experience, the awe, the fear, the resilience. By imagining ourselves in their shoes, we connect with the past in a gentle, personal way. And so, as you lie back and listen, allow yourself to drift into this ancient world. Picture the landscape, rolling hills, dense forests, rivers winding like silver threads, and the sky vast, open, and full of possibility. Imagine small communities of humans, each day a careful balance between survival and curiosity. Hear the whisper of wind through the trees, the distant rush of waterfalls, the soft crackle of a fire at night. Sense the subtle tension, the possibility of sudden change. And the quiet resilience of those who lived so long ago. What would you have done if the earth trembled beneath your feet? How would you have guided your family to safety? Could you have understood the subtle signs that nature offered, or would the sky itself have seemed incomprehensible? These questions may remain unanswered, yet they invite us to imagine deeply, to step gently into the past, and to appreciate the courage of humans who faced the world without the tools or knowledge we take for granted today. And so begins our journey through ancient landscapes, through disasters both feared and mysterious, and through the lives of humans who bore witness to events that shaped the planet itself. Let us walk slowly together, noticing the smallest details, listening to the whispers of the earth, and allowing the stories of the past to unfold softly, like the petals of a flower opening in the early morning light. In this calm, meditative space, we may discover not just the events themselves, but the quiet courage, curiosity, and resilience that carried humans through even the most dramatic moments of their world. As we continue our gentle journey into the world of 50,000 years ago, let us wander deeper into the landscapes that early humans called home. Imagine the soft glow of dawn spilling over rolling hills, turning the tips of grasses into threads of gold. Mist lingers in low valleys, curling round tree trunks and river stones, and the scent of damp earth fills the air. You might hear the distant rush of water cascading over rocks, or the quiet strings of creatures waking from the night. Every sound, every movement carries meaning in this delicate balance of life, a life so intimately tied to the rhythms of nature. Picture a small tribe emerging from their shelters, wrapped in furs, their eyes alert to the subtle shifts of their surroundings. A mother gently nudges her children awake, pointing out tracks in the mud, tiny footprints of a deer, perhaps, or the tail drag marks of a small predator. The father gathers firewood, scanning the horizon for signs of danger. Birds wheel overhead, their calls sharp in the morning air, and somewhere nearby, a distant volcano emits a faint wisp of smoke that most might ignore. Yet some notice. The senses of these early humans were finely attuned, honed over generations to read the whispers of the world. Imagine following a young hunter as he walks quietly along a forest path, the crunch of leaves beneath his feet soft in the early light. He notices a pattern in the clouds, a sudden shift in the wind, and instinctively pauses. Something feels different. Animals to seem unsettled, Herds change direction. Small mammals retreat to browse, and the forest itself seems to hold its breath. It is a moment that is both ordinary and extraordinary, a subtle signal that the world may be prepared, in for change, and in that pause, in that quiet attentiveness, lies a profound human truth, the ability to sense, to observe, and to respond. While we know now, with the benefit of science, that these subtle signs could have been precursors to volcanic eruptions, floods, or sudden storms, for these humans the experience was immediate, intimate, and urgent. They did not measure earthquakes with seismographs, nor predict volcanic ash clouds with satellites. Instead, they relied on instinct, observation, and the wisdom passed down by generations. Every unusual behavior in the forest, every unexpected tremor, was a riddle, a story waiting to be interpreted, and though we may never know exactly what they thought, we can imagine the mixture of curiosity and cautious fear that accompanied each moment. Now, picture the environment in greater detail. Imagine rivers winding through valleys like molten silver, reflecting the sky above. Mountains rise in the distance, their peaks shrouded in clouds, while nearer slopes are dotted with wildflowers, shrubs, and patches of fertile soil. The wind whispers through tall grasses, carrying scents from far-off lands. Sometimes the stillness is broken by the sound of distant thunder, or the roar of a waterfall plunging into a hidden canyon. These natural symphonies played a constant backdrop to human life, providing both beauty and warning. Let us wander, too, along the edge of a forest where sunlight filters through the canopy, casting dappled patterns on the ground. A small group of humans follows a herd of grazing animals. Careful to keep distance while observing their behavior, perhaps they notice the animals growing restless, shifting as if sensing a distant storm. Could they know something we cannot? We might wonder. Indeed, early humans often learned from the behavior of animals, interpreting movements, sounds, and patterns to guide their decisions. This subtle, patient observation was essential for survival. Imagine sitting quietly by a river bank in this ancient world. The water is clear, cool, and soothing as it slips over smooth stones. You can hear the faint buzz of insects, the call of distant birds, and the rustle of leaves as a gentle breeze passes through. Early humans might have paused here, letting the sounds and scents guide their next steps. Perhaps a child splashes cautiously in the shallows, laughing softly, while an elder scans the horizon for clouds or shifting winds. These moments, seemingly ordinary, were threads in a larger tapestry of life, where even small details could signal the difference between safety and danger. In this calm, meditative space, we can also consider the larger patterns at work, as sheets advanced and retreated slowly, pushing ecosystems to shift and adapt. Rivers carved new paths as glaciers melted, sometimes flooding valleys in sudden, overwhelming surges. Volcanoes slumbered for decades, then erupted with immense force, painting the sky with ash and fire. Even distant meteors streaked across the sky, bright and fleeting, leaving trails of curiosity and wonder in the eyes of those who watched. How would early humans interpret such events? Did they see messages in the sky, warnings in the wind, or merely the raw unpredictability of nature? Let us now imagine a story within this landscape. Perhaps a family is moving between seasonal hunting grounds. The father scans the horizon for danger, noting changes in the cloud patterns, while the mother adjusts a bundle of gathered food, her fingers brushing against the familiar textures of herbs and roots. That child notices a sudden ripple across the water, tiny but unusual, and points it out with a quiet excitement. The family exchanges glances, a silent understanding passing between them. In moments like these, survival depends not just on strength, but on attention, on the ability to sense the subtle signs that something is different today than it was yesterday. And yet, despite the potential for danger, there is beauty in these ancient days. Picture the sun rising over a valley, lighting the mist in gold and silver. A gentle breeze carries the scent of pine and wet earth. Birds sing from treetops, and the distant call of a waterfall adds depth to the morning symphony. Even in a world where disasters could strike suddenly, life moved forward with grace. Early humans learned to navigate it with patience, skill, and an enduring curiosity, a trait that still resonates in us today. So, as you settle into your own space, listening softly, allow your mind to drift further into this distant past. Imagine walking along those forest paths, feeling the earth beneath your feet, hearing the distant roar of waterfalls, the whisper of winds, and the soft calls of animals. Sense the subtle tension in the air, the way humans observed and responded, and the quiet courage that guided each step. Reflect, too, on the questions these moments raise. What would you have done if the sky darkened with ash? How would you have guided your family through sudden storms or shifting rivers? Could you have read the signs hidden in the movements of animals or the tremors of the earth? These are questions without immediate answers, and yet they invite you to imagine deeply, to step gently into the shoes of those who lived long before us, to witness the interplay between humans and the powerful forces of nature. And as you imagine, allow yourself to settle slowly into this calm meditative space or place where curiosity ran. Gentle reflection guide the mind, preparing you for the deeper exploration of ancient disasters that awaits in the next chapter of our journey, as we linger a little longer in this quiet, ancient world. Let us follow the footsteps of early humans moving through their familiar landscapes. Imagine a small family walking along a riverbank just before dawn, the water reflecting the pale, rising light. Mist hovers above the surface, curling in slow, delicate tendrils that drift across smooth stones. The sound of the river is constant but soothing, punctuated by the occasional plop of a fish jumping or the soft rustle of reeds as a gentle wind brushes past. The family moves carefully, each step purposeful, aware that the world can shift suddenly, though the morning seems calm. A child points to a cluster of birds suddenly taking flight, their wings beating a quiet rhythm against the still air. The mother kneels to inspect small tracks in the mud, perhaps the footprint of a deer, or maybe a predator that has passed through the night. The father pauses, scanning the distant hills, noting the shape of the clouds, and sensing a subtle vibration underfoot. These observations are small, almost imperceptible, yet they are critical. Every detail could contain a hint, a warning, a piece of wisdom handed down over generations. It is in these quiet attentions that early humans navigated their precarious world. Even in moments of calm, the environment held stories of potential upheaval. Far-off mountains might one day rumble with volcanic fire, and glaciers, miles away, could begin their slow, relentless journey toward the valleys, sending rivers racing and forests trembling. Meteorites sometimes streaked across the night sky, bright and sudden, reminding humans of forces that were beyond their control, forces that could change everything in an instant. And yet, life persisted. Humans continued to hunt, gather, explore, and tell stories, learning from each subtle signal the world offered. Imagine, for a moment, standing on a gentle hill as the sun rises fully over a wide valley. The earth glows with soft hues, green grasses, amber reeds, and silver threads of water snaking through the land. A breeze carries the scent of damp soil, wild herbs, and the faint smoke of a distant fire. Somewhere, a volcano exhales a thin plume of smoke that disperses into the sky, and noticed by most, yet recorded by the keen eyes of an observer who will remember it and pass it on. These subtle details, the smell, the sound, the sight formed the quiet tapestry of life for humans living 50,000 years ago. Let us walk further into the forest, where the canopy casts dappled shadows across the ground. Sunlight filters through leaves, highlighting the glint of dew on spiderwebs and the faint movement of insects along tree trunks. The sounds are gentle, leaves rustling, twigs snapping underfoot. The distant murmur of a stream, and in these moments, humans observed. They noticed patterns when animals grazed, how rivers swelled after rains, how clouds thickened before storms. They learned to read the land with a combination of patience, intuition, and curiosity. And sometimes they sensed the first subtle signs of disaster, tremors, strange animal behavior, or unusual cloud formations. Consider a small anecdote. A hunter moving along the edge of a forest notices the sudden quiet among birds and small mammals. Normally, the forest is alive with chirping, rustling, and the occasional call of a predator. But now, silence hangs heavily, like a held breath. The hunter pauses, scanning the horizon, noticing distant smoke curling upward in a thin, pale line. Could this be a distant fire, or something far more significant? The hunter does not yet know, but the moment is recorded in memory and story. And it is through countless observations like these that humans began to understand the rhythms and the unpredictability of their world. Even at night, when the fire crackles and the stars are bright, humans were attentive. Imagine sitting beside a campfire, the orange glow illuminating faces. While the dark forest hums softly beyond, a child points to a shooting star. Tracing its fleeting path across the sky, the elder smiles, recalling other nights when similar streaks foretold events, storms, floods, or distant fires. The stars were both beautiful and mysterious, and humans sought meaning in their movements. Curiosity and caution coexisted in these moments. A dual awareness that has shaped our species for millennia. And yet, not all signs were ominous. The same rivers that sometimes flooded provided water and fertile land. The same forests that hid predators offered shelter and food. Even volcanic soils, though dangerous, were rich with minerals that supported plant life. Humans learned to navigate the tension between danger and opportunity, observing closely, moving carefully, and adapting continually. It is this subtle, patient resilience that allowed them to survive, and that invites us to imagine their world with both awe and respect. Now, let us pause and reflect on the kinds of questions that rise when imagining these ancient landscapes. What would it feel like to notice the first tremor before a landslide? Or the distant plume of volcanic ash before an eruption? How did early humans interpret the sudden flight of birds, the unexplained murmur of water, or the unexpected scent carried by the wind? Could they sense the forces shaping the world? Or did they simply react with instinct and ingenuity? These questions do not have simple answers, but they are the threads that weave together the story of survival, adaptation, and curiosity in the ancient past. As this introductory journey draws to a close, let us gently shift our focus toward understanding the broader context of the world 50,000 years ago. The landscapes, the rivers, the mountains, and the forests were all part of a living, breathing system, interconnected and dynamic. Ice sheets moved slowly across continents. Glaciers carved valleys, and volcanic activity reshaped the land in sudden, dramatic events. Humans were observers, participants, and learners in this ever-changing world. Their lives entwined with the rhythms of the earth. In the next chapter, we will explore these environments in greater detail, diving into the scientific, anthropological, and archaeological understanding of this time. We will consider the migration patterns of early humans, the plants and animals that shared their world, and the subtle environmental signals that may have foreshadowed the disasters to come. And through it all, we will continue to imagine the lived experience, the sights, sounds, and feelings of those who walked the earth so long ago. But for now, let us rest in the quiet of this ancient morning, listening to the soft murmurs of the forest, the gentle rush of rivers, and the whisper of wind through the trees. Let us remember the small acts of observation, patience, and adaptation that marked human life 50,000 years ago. In these quiet moments, we connect across time, sharing the experience of wonder, attentiveness, and survival. And with that connection, we are ready to step deeper into the context of this ancient world, where both beauty and disaster shaped the lives of humans who walked before us. As we step fully into the world of 50,000 years ago, let us linger in the quiet beauty of landscapes largely untouched by human hands. Picture expansive grasslands stretching toward distant mountains, where morning mist clings to the valleys and rivers snake through fertile plains like silver ribbons. The air is fresh, carrying the subtle scent of damp soil, wild herbs, and flowering shrubs occasionally. The distant roar of a waterfall or the gentle rumble of a far-off stream punctuates the stillness. Every sound, every movement, is alive with information for the humans who walk here, guiding them, warning them, and helping them survive. Imagine a small tribe moving carefully through this landscape, their senses finely attuned to the rhythms of nature. A hunter crouches behind a low hill, observing a herd of grazing deer. He notices subtle changes, a slight unease in the animals' movements, the way they flick their ears and shift their gaze. Perhaps the wind has changed direction, carrying scents from a distant forest fire, or a minor tremor runs through the earth beneath his feet. To modern eyes, these details might seem insignificant. Yet for humans of this time, they're the difference between safety and peril. Children play quietly near the riverbank, learning skills they will need for life. How to track footprints in soft mud, how to recognize the calls of different birds, how to gather edible plants without disturbing the fragile ecosystem. A mother watches over them, teaching softly, her voice blending with the whisper of the wind and the babble of the river. Every moment is an opportunity for learning, for observation, for understanding the subtle language of the world. The forests, dense and alive with movement, conceal both danger and opportunity. Tall trees tower overhead, their leaves filtering sunlight into dappled patterns across the forest floor. Ferns and moss grow thick, and the hum of insects fills the air. Predators lurk silently among the shadows, yet prey animals also thrive, creating a delicate balance. Humans of this time move with caution, intuition, and knowledge accumulated over generations. A sudden rustle in the underbrush might signal a deer, a small predator, or simply the wind shifting branches, but the trained eye and attentive ear often distinguish between them. Beyond the immediate landscape, geological and environmental forces are constantly shaping the world. Glaciers inch slowly across distant continents, carving valleys and pushing rivers into new courses. Ice sheets in polar regions expand and retreat, influencing climate patterns even far away. Volcanic activity, often hidden until the last moment, reshapes entire regions with fiery eruptions, ash clouds, and lava flows. Even meteors and asteroids occasionally streak across the sky, leaving marks on the earth that humans may not even comprehend fully. And yet, life continues. Humans adapt, observe, and learn from these ever-present forces. Picture a day in the life of a family during this period. The father scans the horizon while tracking game, his eyes catching patterns in the terrain and movement of animals. The mother tends to a fire, ensuring warmth and cooking food, while also watching for signs of weather changes or the approach of danger. Children follow, mimicking movements, learning how to move quietly, how to spot tracks, and how to understand the subtle cues the land offers. Even in play, they absorb the lessons of survival, the deep knowledge passed down from elders who have read the environment for decades. The climate itself is in constant flux. The world exists in what modern scientists call the Late Pleistocene period, characterized by cycles of glacial expansion and retreat. Temperatures fluctuate, sea levels rise and fall, and ecosystems shift in response. Some regions experience cold, dry conditions, while others remain warm and lush. Humans of this time are both observers and participants, adjusting their movements, diets, and strategies to match the changing world. Imagine following a tribe as they migrate seasonally, seeking food, water, and shelter, guided by their intimate understanding of the land and its rhythms. Even the night sky offers clues and mysteries. Without artificial light, the stars shine brightly, revealing the vastness of the universe. Humans may have noticed patterns in the constellations, or the sudden appearance of a comet streaking across the sky. Perhaps they interpreted such events as messages or omens, or perhaps they simply marveled at the beauty and unpredictability of the cosmos. In either case, the night sky, like the forests, rivers, and mountains, is both a guide and a source of wonder, a constant presence that shapes human perception and imagination. Consider a minor anecdote from such a world. A young hunter pauses on a ridge, watching a distant storm gathering over the mountains. The wind shifts, carrying a faint, smoky scent. Birds begin to take flight, calling urgently to one another. The hunter senses the approaching change, alerting his family to seek shelter. As the first distant rumbles of thunder echo across the valley, the tribe huddles together, learning once more that observation, attentiveness, and quick adaptation can be life-saving. In these small, often unnoticed moments, humans learn the patterns of the natural world, developing instincts and wisdom that would carry their species forward. The flora and fauna of the era are equally fascinating. Towering conifers and broadleaf trees dominate the forests, while ferns and mosses carpet the ground. Grasslands teem with large herbivores, ancient relatives of deer, bison, and other now extinct megafauna, predators, from stealthy cats to large packs of canines. Hunt across these lands, creating a constant push and pull between life and death. Humans observe, hunt, gather, and coexist within this complex web of relationships. They learn which plants are safe to eat, which animals are best to track, and how weather patterns can affect both food availability and safety. Early humans also innovate and experiment. Tools, simple at first, become more sophisticated over generations. Stone blades are carefully chipped and shaped. Spears are crafted for both hunting and defense. Fire is controlled for warmth, cooking, and protection. Even clothing is made with care, from animal hide softened by scraping and drying. These achievements reveal the remarkable capacity of humans to adapt and thrive. Even amid unpredictability, Sense the wind on your face, the soft ground beneath your feet, and the quiet tension of a world both beautiful and unpredictable. Humans of this time lived in intimate connection with such environments. The air within was cool, damp, and alive with sound, insects humming softly, small mammals rustling through undergrowth, and birds calling in intricate patterns. Early humans learned to move quietly through this labyrinth, their senses finely tuned to detect any hint of danger or opportunity, a crack of a branch, the rustle of leaves, or the glint of movement could all reveal predators or prey. Guiding decisions that might mean the difference between life and death, glaciers, vast and relentless, shaped landscapes far beyond their frozen edges. Imagine towering walls of ice slowly advancing across valleys, grinding rock beneath them and reshaping rivers as they crept forward. These movements were slow in human perception, but immense in their effects. Meltwaters carved new river channels, flooding lowlands and creating temporary lakes. While the retreat of glaciers opened new lands for settlement, hunting and foraging. Humans had to anticipate these slow, subtle changes, understanding how shifts in ice and water could impact both food sources and safety. Volcanic activity also played a dramatic role in shaping the world. Imagine the distant mountains, quiet for decades, suddenly erupting with force unimaginable to the humans observing from below. Ash clouds rise high into the sky, darkening the sunlight and coating the land in a thin, grey blanket. Rivers carry volcanic debris downstream, while forests smolder quietly in the heat. Observing the heavens was yet another way humans tuned themselves to the rhythms of the natural world, integrating cosmic patterns into daily survival strategies. Life was not solely about danger, however. The abundance of plants, animals, and fresh water allowed humans to flourish in ways that were deeply tied to understanding the environment. They developed tools from stone, bone, and wood, shaping blades, spears, and digging implements to suit specific tasks. Fire was harnessed for warmth, protection, and cooking, and even clothing made from animal hides reflected careful preparation and adaptation to climate. In these innovations, humans combined observation with creativity, responding to environmental challenges with ingenuity that would define our species for millennia. Imagine a scene at dusk. A family has settled beside a river after a long day of hunting and gathering. The sky glows with soft oranges and purples as the sun dips behind distant hills. A young boy practices throwing a spear under the watchful eye of his father, while his mother gathers edible roots along the water's edge. Nearby, a small fire crackles, sending flickers of light across the faces of those round it. The sound of flowing water, the occasional call of a night bird, and the rustle of leaves in the breeze create a calming symphony. In these quiet moments, humans rested, observed, and shared knowledge, weaving the fabric of culture that would carry their species forward. Let us reflect, too, on the subtle ways humans read the land. The behavior of animals was a guide. Birds taking flight, deer grazing nervously, or predators silently stalking. Changes in plant growth or the flow of rivers provided cues about seasonal shifts and impending challenges. These observations formed a language, a vocabulary of survival that was passed down through generations. Stories, rituals, and shared memories reinforced this knowledge, creating a cultural map of the landscape that complemented instinct and experience. Now, consider how the environment itself can sometimes appear almost alive. Rivers that swell after rain seem to pulse with energy, forests hum with quiet movement, and mountains stand as monumental sentinels, indifferent yet profoundly influential. Even subtle events, a gust of wind, the shift of clouds, the distant rumble of earth carry meaning for humans attuned to their surroundings. Every day, every season, these interactions teach lessons, shaping behavior, knowledge, and survival strategies. It is a reminder that humans were not separate from the world. They were participants in a complex, dynamic system. As we end this segment of our journey, let us rest for a moment amidst these ancient landscapes. Picture the golden light of late afternoon spilling across hills, the gentle murmur of rivers, and the quiet rustling of forests. Sense the tension and calm that coexist in a world shaped by ice, fire, water, and wind. Feel the connection humans had with this environment, an intricate awareness that allowed them to adapt, survive, and thrive amid forces far larger than themselves. And in this quiet space, we prepare to explore the events themselves, the disasters, the mysteries, and the awe-inspiring phenomena that punctuated human life 50,000 years ago. As we continue to explore the world of 50,000 years ago, let us walk through the landscapes shaped by slow, patient forces over countless centuries. Imagine standing on a gentle slope, overlooking a valley where rivers wind through forests and grasslands. The sunlight reflects off the water, creating soft patterns that ripple across the land. Birds soar overhead, their shadows moving gently across the hills, while the faint hum of insects adds texture to the quiet symphony of nature. In such a world, even subtle changes can hold profound meaning. Humans of this era were keen observers of these subtle shifts. They noticed the rise and fall of rivers after rainfall, the ebb and flow of animal populations, and the subtle signs of volcanic or seismic activity. A distant tremor might ripple through the earth, unnoticed by many. Yet a sharp observer could detect it through the vibrations underfoot or the sudden unrest of animals. These observations were not mere curiosities. They were vital tools for survival. Consider the cycle of the seasons, which played an essential role in human life. Winter brought cold winds and shorter days, while summer offered warmth, abundant food, and longer periods for hunting and gathering. Early humans tracked these changes not only through experience, but also through observation of the natural world. Trees shed their leaves, rivers swelled or shrank, and animal behavior shifted subtly with the climate. These patterns provided the foundation for migration, settlement, and resource management. Glacial movements were among the most powerful environmental forces at this time, slowly but relentlessly. Ice sheets advanced and retreated, carving valleys and redirecting rivers. Imagine standing near the edge of a massive glacier, hearing the distant cracking of ice as it shifts imperceptibly, yet with immense power. The landscape transforms gradually, reshaping entire ecosystems. Early humans had to anticipate these slow but inexorable changes, choosing campsites, hunting grounds, and migration paths with remarkable foresight. Volcanoes were another unpredictable element in this world. While some lay dormant for decades, others could erupt with sudden intensity, spewing ash, molten rock, and clouds of gas into the sky. Imagine a volcano in the distance, quiet and seemingly inert, while humans gather food or follow migrating herds. Suddenly, smoke rises and ash begins to fall, coating the trees, rivers, and grasses. Animals flee, and humans must act quickly to find safety. Such events, though dangerous, also renewed the land over time, enriching soils and creating new habitats for plants and animals. Floods, too, shaped the lives of early humans. Rivers could swell dramatically after heavy rains or glacial melt, submerging plains and altering landscapes within hours or days. Imagine a family walking along a riverbank, noticing the water level slowly rising. They may recognize the subtle signs: the faster current, the shifting color of sediment, the increased activity of nearby wildlife, and decide to move to higher ground. These small but critical decisions were learned over generations, forming the foundation of survival strategies passed down through oral storytelling. Even cosmic events contributed to the unpredictability of this world. Meteors occasionally streaked across the sky, leaving glowing trails and sometimes impacting the Earth with explosive force. Imagine a bright flash illuminating the night, followed by a distant rumble or a sudden shockwave. Humans may not have fully understood the cause, but they certainly felt the effects, interpreting such events through stories, myths, and careful observation over time. These experiences became woven into the culture, shaping human understanding of the wider universe. Despite these dangers, humans thrived by integrating knowledge, intuition, and adaptability. They developed tools and strategies finely tuned to the rhythms of nature. Stone blades were crafted for specific tasks, from cutting plants to hunting large animals. Spears and digging tools were designed to maximize efficiency while minimizing risk. Fire was controlled for warmth, cooking, and protection from predators. Clothing from animal hides provided insulation against harsh climates. Each innovation reflected a deep understanding of the environment and an ability to respond to both opportunity and threat. Let us imagine a day in the life of a hunter-gatherer family. The father moves silently along a forest edge, tracking a herd of deer. The mother gathers edible roots and herbs, noting which plants are ripe and which may be harmful. Children learn by watching, copying movements, and asking questions. Every observation teaches patience, awareness, and respect for the environment. Even moments of play are opportunities to practice skills vital for survival: tracking, hiding, balancing, and interpreting subtle cues in nature. Sometimes the forces of nature arrive without warning. Picture a sudden storm rolling across the plains, dark clouds obscuring the sun and sending gusts of wind through the tall grasses. Rain falls in torrents, rivers swell, and animals scramble for shelter. Early humans must respond swiftly, seeking high ground, securing supplies and huddling together for safety. In these moments, survival depends on a combination of observation, experience, and instinct, a delicate balance honed over thousands of years, and yet, even amidst potential danger, the world offered beauty and abundance. Rivers teemed with fish, forests with fruit and game, and grasslands with herbs and berries. Humans lived in intimate connection with these landscapes, learning to harvest without depleting, to observe without disturbing, and to respect the rhythms of life that sustained them. Their existence was a dance between attentiveness and adaptation, curiosity and caution. Consider the small details that made life possible: the scent of wet earth after rain, the rustle of leaves signaling approaching animals, the sound of flowing water indicating the location of a nearby stream. These details were as vital as the tools and skills humans carried. They formed a sensory map of the world, allowing people to navigate complex environments with skill and confidence. Over time, this knowledge became embedded in culture, shared through stories, songs, and rituals that connected generations across time and space. As we reflect on this period, it becomes clear that the environment itself was both teacher and challenge. Ice, fire, water, and wind shaped the land in ways humans could observe but not control. Humans responded with ingenuity, patience, and resilience, learning to read the signs of impending change and to act wisely. These lessons formed the foundation for the remarkable adaptability that has defined our species. From the earliest days of survival, finally, imagine a quiet evening in this prehistoric world. The sun dips behind distant hills, painting the sky in soft oranges and purples. A family rests beside a gently flowing river, listening to the murmur of water, the distant call of birds, and the whisper of wind through the trees. The world feels alive and full of subtle signals, each detail teaching observation, patience, and respect. And as night falls, stars shine brightly in the dark sky, offering both guidance and wonder. In these quiet moments, humans lived attentively, aware that every day brought new opportunities, challenges, and mysteries to explore as we step further into the ancient world. Let us now focus on the extraordinary events that shaped the lives of humans and the landscapes they inhabited. Imagine the quiet valley we've been observing, a place where rivers meander, forests hum softly, and mountains stand like watchful sentinels. Suddenly, there is a subtle tremor beneath your feet. The ground vibrates imperceptibly at first, then more insistently. Birds rise into the sky, their calls sharp and urgent. Animals shift nervously, and the wind seems to carry a tension that is almost tangible. Humans of this time were sensitive to such disturbances. Without instruments, they relied on sensors honed over generations to detect changes in the earth and sky. A hunter might pause, noticing that the river's surface ripples strangely, or that distant trees sway without wind. Children might observe a deer moving with unusual caution. These early warnings, though subtle, were critical for survival, and yet, even with such attentiveness, the world could surprise them with sudden, overwhelming force. Consider volcanic eruptions, one of the most dramatic forces shaping landscapes 50,000 years ago. Imagine a distant mountain, dormant for centuries, suddenly awakening. Smoke rises in long, grey columns, drifting across valleys. A deep rumble grows steadily, resonating through hills and forests. Ash begins to fall, coating plants, rocks, and water in a thin layer of grey. Rivers may darken with sediment, and the sky itself becomes a muted, ominous shade. Animals flee instinctively, guided by instinct rather than understanding. Humans, too, respond with a mixture of fear, curiosity, and urgent decision-making, moving to higher ground or seeking shelter in caves or dense forests. These eruptions, though destructive in the moment, also left marks that archaeologists and geologists can study today, layers of volcanic ash preserved in sediment. Tell stories of sudden disruption and long-term transformation. They reveal how humans and animals adapted to catastrophic events, sometimes fleeing entire regions, sometimes learning to navigate changed landscapes. Even the plants and soils were altered, yet life eventually returned, often stronger and more diverse after the upheaval. Now, imagine a different kind of force glacial surges as sheets, slow and patient, could advance over valleys, reshaping rivers and flattening forests in their path. Meltwater from distant glaciers might flood lowlands, creating temporary lakes and forcing humans to move along new routes. In some cases, entire habitats shifted within a few generations, challenging humans to adapt to new conditions. And yet, amidst these changes, humans found ways to survive, often drawing upon accumulated knowledge, careful observation, and communal decision-making. Meteor impacts also punctuated this ancient period. Imagine a sudden flash in the sky, followed by a distant roar and tremors that ripple across the land. Fragments of rock and metal strike the earth, leaving craters and igniting fires. Early humans would have witnessed the sky illuminated by fleeting streaks of light, perhaps interpreting them as messages or warnings from forces beyond their comprehension. While rare, these cosmic events could have profound local effects, reshaping landscapes, altering climates temporarily, and creating new challenges for survival. Even smaller, subtler disasters left an impression. Seasonal floods could inundate riverside camps, while sudden storms might knock over trees, damage shelters, or sweep away food stores. Animals, too, experienced these forces, often fleeing before humans could respond. Every disaster, whether dramatic or subtle, required quick thinking, adaptability, and attentiveness. Humans learned to read the signs in water levels, cloud formations, wind shifts, and animal behavior, integrating observation with action to navigate a constantly changing world. Let us pause to imagine a family caught in one such event. The sky darkens with clouds, and a distant rumble signals a storm approaching faster than expected. The father quickly gathers the children, while the mother moves essential tools and food to a safe spot. Together, they move toward higher ground, pausing occasionally to check the river, the forest, and the distant mountains. The wind picks up, carrying rain and cold sheets. Animals flee in all directions, some crashing through underbrush, others disappearing silently into the distance. In moments like these, the combination of learned experience and instinct is a lifeline. Survival depends not only on strength but on observation, memory, and attentiveness to every detail of the environment. Even amidst danger, there is beauty. Rain patters gently on leaves before the storm intensifies, filling the air with a fresh, earthy scent. Rivers swell and shimmer in muted light, reflecting clouds and trees. The soundscape changes subtly. Distant thunder, the crack of branches, the occasional call of an unsettled bird. Humans experience a mixture of tension and awe, recognizing the power of the natural world and their place within it. These moments, though frightening, are also instructive, teaching respect for forces beyond human control. Volcanic ash, floods, glacial movements, and meteor impacts were not just isolated phenomena. They often interacted, creating compound effects. An eruption could melt nearby glaciers, sending torrents of water rushing downstream. A meteor impact might trigger fires, dust clouds, and sudden shifts in animal populations, humans had to respond to these overlapping challenges with keen observation, flexible strategies, and communal support. Their survival was a testament to adaptability and resilience in a world governed by powerful, unpredictable forces. Consider, too, the psychological and cultural impact of these events. Humans would have gathered round fires, recounting strange occurrences, interpreting unusual patterns in the sky or changes in the land. These stories were more than mere entertainment. They transmitted knowledge, warned of dangers, and fostered communal understanding. Oral traditions became vessels of survival, linking observation with interpretation and experience with wisdom. Over generations, these narratives shaped human perception of the environment, blending curiosity, caution, and awe. Even today, scientists and anthropologists study these events to understand how early humans interacted with their world. Evidence in sediment layers, cave deposits, and fossilized remains reveals the timing and magnitude of disasters. Patterns emerge. Humans often relocated temporarily, adapted hunting strategies, or altered settlement locations in response to environmental stresses. These adaptations highlight a remarkable capacity to observe, learn, and innovate, qualities that allowed humans to thrive even amidst recurring challenges. As we visualize these ancient disasters, let us also imagine the small, everyday observations that accompanied them. A child noticing a sudden change in animal behavior, an elder pointing out the unusual angle of the sun, or a hunter interpreting the distant rumble of earth beneath their feet. These moments were embedded in the rhythm of daily life. In the quiet, attentive observation of nature, humans learned to anticipate, adapt, and survive. And in this attentiveness, we can sense the deep connection they had with their world. A connection that allowed them to endure the extraordinary forces that shaped their lives. Let us walk a little further into the landscapes of 50,000 years ago, where the forces of nature were both awe-inspiring and unpredictable. Imagine a quiet valley at dawn, shrouded in mist. The river flows gently, birds call softly in the trees, and distant mountains rise like silent guardians. Yet beneath this calm, there is the constant potential for sudden change. A subtle tremor might ripple across the earth, unnoticed by many, yet sensed by those who are attuned to the rhythm of the land. Humans of this era lived in a world where such signals could mean the difference between safety and disaster. Consider one such day, when a distant volcano begins to stir. Smoke coils upward in a thin grey spiral, drifting lazily at first. Then, without warning, the mountain erupts. A deep, resonant roar rolls across the valleys, shaking trees and startling animals. Ash begins to fall like fine powder, coating leaves, rocks, and rivers. The smell of sulfur hangs in the air, sharp and unfamiliar. Humans must act quickly, gathering children and essential supplies, seeking shelter in caves or moving towards safer terrain. In the chaos, every observation counts. The direction of the wind, the thickness of the ash, the behavior of nearby animals. Volcanic eruptions were not the only forces that tested human resilience. Imagine glaciers, massive and relentless, pushing through valleys over centuries. Ice advances slowly, crushing forests, redirecting rivers, and altering landscapes. Meltwaters from distant ice sheets flood lowlands, creating temporary lakes that force humans to relocate. Even seemingly calm areas could be transformed by these immense, patient forces. Humans learned to read subtle clues: the texture of soil, the arrangement of rocks, or the presence of unusual water flows. To anticipate such events, their survival depended on knowledge accumulated over generations, shared orally and practiced daily. Meteor impacts also left their mark on this ancient world. Imagine a night sky illuminated by a blazing streak of light, followed by a distant explosion and a subtle tremor beneath your feet. Rocks strike the earth, creating craters and setting nearby forests alight. Early humans might interpret these celestial phenomena as warnings or messages, weaving them into the tapestry of world history, yet beyond myth and interpretation. Such events had practical consequences. Animals fled, water sources were contaminated, and landscapes were reshaped in ways that demanded quick adaptation. Floods, though seemingly ordinary, could become devastating. Seasonal rains swell rivers, inundating campsites and forcing rapid relocation. Imagine a family walking along a riverbank, noticing subtle changes in water color and current. Within hours, low-lying areas are submerged, the air filled with the scent of damp earth and floating vegetation. Animals scatter, and humans must move swiftly, balancing urgency with careful observation to avoid danger. These recurrent challenges honed skills that became second nature, reading water patterns, predicting storms, and knowing when to move and when to wait. Amid these events, humans found ways to survive, adapt, and even thrive. They developed tools to hunt more efficiently, shelter from storms, and prepare food in new ways. Fire became a critical ally, providing warmth, protection, and a means to cook. Clothing from animal hides allowed adaptation to cold climates, while simple but effective shelters protected from wind, rain, and debris. Knowledge passed through generations from parents to children, from elders to the community formed a living map of the environment, guiding survival through both ordinary days and extraordinary disasters. Let us pause to imagine a more personal anecdote from this period. A young hunter notices unusual behavior in a nearby herd of deer. The animals are restless, their movements erratic. He points this out to his father, who observes the darkening sky and the distant rumble of a far-off landslide. Recognizing the signs, the family packs essential tools, gathers children, and moves to higher ground. They watch the river swell and trees bend beneath the force of wind. Yet, because of their attentiveness, they remain safe. This moment of observation and quick action illustrates the delicate balance between knowledge, intuition, and survival in an unpredictable world. Even seemingly minor disasters could have profound impacts. A sudden fire, ignited by lightning or volcanic activity, might sweep through a forest, forcing animals and humans alike to flee. Landslides, triggered by rain or shifting terrain, could block river paths and reshape the land. Each event, large or small, left a mark on the landscape and on human memory, becoming part of the oral history that guided future generations. These recurring challenges shaped human culture, resilience, and ingenuity, forming the foundation for how our species learned to coexist with a dynamic planet. In addition to physical changes, these disasters influenced human perception and imagination. Early humans likely interpreted unusual patterns and events in ways that combined observation with meaning, making a meteor streaking across the night sky might be seen as a celestial message, a volcanic eruption could be woven into stories of creation or warning. Seasonal floods, sudden storms, and shifting glaciers became part of a broader understanding of a world that was both beautiful and unpredictable. Observation, interpretation, and storytelling became inseparable, guiding both survival and cultural identity. Let us imagine a quiet moment after a storm. The air is fresh and earthy, filled with the scent of wet soil and fallen leaves. Rivers carry sediment and debris, flowing more strongly than before. Birds cautiously return, singing softly as they search for food and shelter. Humans survey the land, noting changes, remembering lessons and planning next steps. These moments of reflection are as vital as the disasters themselves, allowing humans to integrate experience into knowledge that will inform their choices in the future. even in periods of calm. Humans remained attentive. They observed animal behavior, water levels, and plant growth. They read the subtle cues of wind, cloud formations, and distant sounds. Each day was an opportunity to learn, practice, and refine skills necessary for survival, and in this attentiveness, humans forged a connection with the environment. A deep understanding of the rhythms, patterns, and potential surprises of the natural world. As we conclude this segment, we can sense the delicate interplay between the forces of nature and the humans who observed and navigated them. Volcanic eruptions, floods, glacial surges, meteor impacts, and storms were not merely challenges, they were part of the dynamic system that shaped life, behavior, and culture. Early humans lived attentively, observing, adapting, and responding to these events with ingenuity and care. In doing so, they left traces in the land, in stories, and in memory, providing insights for us today into the resilience and resourcefulness of our ancestors. Let us now linger on the mysteries that sometimes unfolded in the landscapes of 50,000 years ago, events that challenged early humans' understanding and inspired stories that would be told for generations. Imagine a quiet morning in the forest, dew sparkling on leaves, birds singing softly, and the distant sound of a river flowing. Suddenly, a strange, low rumble echoes from the mountains. Unlike anything the humans have heard before, the ground vibrates lightly, and even the animals appear unsettled. Could it be the approach of a storm, a shifting glacier, or perhaps something entirely unknown? Early humans, attuned to subtle patterns, would have sensed that this event was unusual. They observed not only the sounds but the changes in air, light, and movement of plants and animals. A flock of birds rises in alarm. Small mammals screech to browse. The humans watch and wait, noting every detail, their curiosity mingling with caution. It is these moments of uncertainty, when nature behaves in ways that are rare or unexplained, that likely shaped early human thought and imagination. One example might be sudden volcanic booms or tremors that occurred without immediate eruption. Imagine hearing a deep, resonant sound that rolls across valleys, yet seeing no visible smoke or fire. Humans might interpret this as a message from the earth, a warning, or a sign of an event yet to unfold. They would discuss it, remember it, and perhaps incorporate it into stories shared round fires in the evening. These interpretations, blending observation, fear, and imagination, became part of early culture, shaping both survival strategies and symbolic thinking. Meteor events also added to the air of mystery. Imagine a streak of light tearing across the night sky, followed by a distant impact, leaving a glowing crater in a remote valley. Humans may not have immediately comprehended the cause, yet the consequences were tangible. Smoke, fire, scattered animals, debris. Over time, these events became stories, perhaps interpreted as celestial omens or expressions of forces beyond human understanding. Such events remind us that the prehistoric world was both noble and a nobler place where observation could guide survival but could not always explain the extraordinary. Floods and unusual storms added their own unpredictable elements. Consider sudden torrential rain, falling in torrents heavier than ever experienced before. Rivers swell beyond their usual banks, carrying logs, debris, and fish in ways that are at once terrifying and awe-inspiring. Humans react instinctively, moving to higher ground and gathering supplies. Yet in the aftermath, they observe subtle changes in the landscape, new pools of water, shifts in vegetation, and perhaps the appearance of creatures not seen in the area before. These rare events might spark both wonder and caution, teaching lessons that would echo through generations. Imagine a family sitting by a small fire, after such an event, reflecting on what they have observed. The father points out how the river's course has changed, Noting where the water now flows fastest, the mother remembers which berry bushes were submerged and which remain safe to harvest. Children mimic animal movements, learning how creatures respond to floods and storms. Each observation reinforces an intricate understanding of nature, a knowledge built from attention, intuition, and shared memory. Beyond natural disasters, there were phenomena that early humans could not easily explain: strange lights in the sky, unusual animal behaviors, or sudden shifts in weather patterns. All of these likely inspired curiosity and storytelling. Imagine observing a dense fog that rolls across the valley in the middle of the day, muting sounds and distorting shapes. The forest appears unfamiliar, shadows stretch in impossible directions, and distant sounds echo strangely. Such experiences could inspire fear, wonder, and imagination. Blending reality with the mysterious, these moments also highlight the deep attentiveness of early humans. They did not merely react, they observed, questioned, and interpreted. A sudden pattern in animal behavior, a strange cloud formation, or a distant noise could all provide valuable information. Children learned these lessons through practice and story, absorbing knowledge that was both practical and cultural. This careful observation of rare or mysterious events became part of the toolkit for survival, allowing humans to navigate a world full of both routine and unpredictability. Consider a quiet anecdote. A young girl notices that a certain bird always calls a warning before a landslide occurs near a mountainside. Over time, the adults in her community begin to observe this pattern as well. When the earth trembles slightly and the bird calls, the humans move to safer areas. What might have seemed like coincidence is transformed into understanding, showing how even mysterious events were gradually decoded through careful attention and communal learning. Now imagine the subtle aftermath of a cosmic or geological event. Ash from a distant eruption drifts silently into valleys, coating leaves and rivers in a delicate layer of gray. Glacial meltwater reshapes a stream, creating new fishing grounds while submerging familiar pots. A meteor impact leaves a smoking crater that attracts curious humans and animals alike. In these moments, humans must interpret the signals, adapt strategies, and continue their daily life while remaining mindful of possible dangers. Each event reinforces the fragile balance between observation and action, curiosity and caution, even when events are not immediately catastrophic. Their cumulative effect shapes both landscape and human culture. A sequence of floods over decades may change river routes permanently. Recurrent storms may alter settlement patterns. Glacial surges can slowly transform valleys. Humans respond by observing, learning, and adapting, developing knowledge systems that are both practical and cultural. Over time, these accumulated experiences recorded in stories, patterns of movement, and practical strategies create a deep connection between humans and the environment, a bond that allowed survival despite uncertainty. Finally, let us imagine the meditative quiet that follows such events. The sun rises gently over a transformed landscape, reflecting in rivers and pools created by floods or glacial melt. Birds return to the trees, cautiously exploring areas altered by ash or water. Humans, too, move carefully, noting every detail, reflecting on lessons learned, and adapting strategies for the future. In this way, the world continues dynamic, mysterious, and alive, and humans remain attentive participants, quietly learning from every ripple, tremor, and streak of light across the sky. As we venture deeper into the prehistoric world, let us consider times when multiple forces of nature combined, creating events that were both mesmerizing and terrifying. Picture a broad valley at dusk, rivers flowing slowly, the last sunlight catching on distant mountains. In this peaceful moment, there is a subtle tension in the air, a low vibration underfoot. The restless movement of animals, the distant rumble of shifting rocks. In this ancient world, such combinations of forces were not uncommon, and humans learned to recognize the subtle signs that hinted at compounding events. Imagine, for instance, a volcanic eruption occurring while glaciers are slowly melting in nearby valleys, the heat from lava causes massive ice sheets to crack and melt, sending torrents of water rushing downstream. Rivers overflow, flooding plains that were once familiar and safe. Trees are uprooted. Wildlife flees, and humans must act swiftly to preserve both life and resources. A hunter notices unusual debris floating in the river and points it out to the group. They quickly recognize the pattern. This is not an ordinary flood, it is a rare combination of fire and ice, a convergence of forces that requires urgent attention and careful observation. In such moments, survival depended on keen senses and experience. Humans watched the sky for a changing cloud. Patterns, noted shifts in wind direction, and listened for unusual sounds in the distance. Children learned through observation, mimicking adults' movements and paying attention to the smallest details, the rustle of leaves, the movement of insects, or the behavior of birds. Each observation was a lesson in resilience, a reminder that the world, though beautiful, could be unpredictable and occasionally overwhelming. Meteor impacts also sometimes coincided with other natural events, creating phenomena that were rare and mysterious. Imagine a bright streak of light across the sky, followed by a distant tremor and a sudden shower of ash from a volcanic vent. Smoke rises and drifts across forests, rivers become murky with sediment, and animals scatter in every direction. Humans, though startled, apply knowledge passed down through generations. They move toward high ground, protect essential supplies, and seek temporary shelter. The capacity to integrate observations, knowledge, and intuition allowed early humans to navigate even these extraordinary circumstances. Consider a small, personal scene. A family sits near a river, observing unusual cloud formations and distant ash clouds. The father notices a subtle change in river flow, while the mother tracks the nervous behavior of nearby animals. A young boy points to a glowing meteor streaking across the sky. Together, the family interprets these signs and takes measured action, moving supplies and finding higher ground. Their attentiveness and experience turn potential disaster into a manageable challenge. These quiet acts of observation and adaptation illustrate the remarkable resilience and ingenuity of early humans. Even less dramatic disasters could compound over time, creating persistent challenges. Recurrent floods, shifting rivers, and sudden storms altered familiar landscapes. Humans needed to track long-term changes as well as immediate events. Imagine returning to a familiar campsite only to find the river has shifted course, berry bushes are submerged, and paths through the forest are blocked. Such changes demanded flexibility, creativity, and careful observation. Humans learned to adapt, developing strategies for relocation, resource management, and communal decision-making that would ensure survival across generations. The interplay between humans and their environment was not only practical but also deeply observational and even philosophical. Early humans noticed patterns, cycles, and interactions among various forces. A volcano's eruption might trigger floods, a meteor impact might ignite fires. Glaciers might alter river courses over decades. By observing these connections, humans began to understand their environment as a dynamic system, a web of interdependent forces where one event could ripple outward to create unexpected consequences. This attentiveness laid the foundation for knowledge systems that blended practicality with curiosity and even wonder. Rivers carry debris, and the landscape is subtly reshaped. Humans walk carefully along newly formed paths, observing changes in plant growth and animal behavior. These observations accumulate into collective knowledge, a living map of environmental understanding that guides communities through both ordinary and extraordinary days. The sun glints off newly deposited river sediments, reflecting golden light across distant hills. A gentle breeze carries the scent of wet earth and ash, reminding them of the cycles of destruction and renewal that govern the land. Birds sing, cautiously, testing the safety of returning to familiar trees. They notice the water carries fish, small mammals, and even floating logs. By carefully following the new flow, the group discovers new fishing spots and safe spots, turning potential disaster into an opportunity. Such adaptability highlights the delicate balance between risk and reward, observation and action, that characterized human life during this period. Compound events also shaped early human culture, particularly storytelling. Round evening fires, families shared accounts of unusual phenomena: volcanoes, floods, meteors, and their cascading effects. These stories preserved knowledge of patterns, dangers, and strategies for adaptation. They were more than entertainment. They were essential survival tools, encoding observations into narrative forms that future generations could learn from both experience and imagination. Over time, such oral traditions became repositories of environmental intelligence, blending practical lessons with cultural meaning. Finally, consider the psychological dimension of these events. Facing multiple disasters, humans developed a profound attentiveness to both the ordinary and extraordinary. They learned patience, observation, and interpretation. These skills, honed over thousands of years, created a deep connection between humans and the natural world, allowing them to navigate an unpredictable environment with ingenuity, care, and resilience. As we conclude this segment, we can reflect on the remarkable capacity of early humans to live in a world of compounded forces. Volcanoes, glaciers, floods, storms, and meteors often interacted in unpredictable ways, challenging humans to observe, interpret, and respond. Their survival depended on attention to detail, accumulated knowledge, and community coordination. Let us now turn our attention to some of the most remarkable and puzzling phenomena that shaped life 50,000 years ago. Picture a wide, open plain at early dawn. Mist rises from the ground, soft and ethereal, while distant mountains are cloaked in shadows. The air is cool and still, but there is a sense of anticipation, a subtle shift that humans of this time might sense instinctively. In such a world, even the faintest signs of change demanded attention. One striking phenomenon was the sudden appearance of new landscapes after volcanic eruptions or glacial retreats. Imagine a valley transformed almost overnight, ash-laden soil, rivers diverted, forests partially destroyed. Yet within this apparent destruction, new opportunities emerge. Young trees begin to sprout in nutrient-rich volcanic soils. Small pools of water form from melted glaciers. and animal population shift in response to the altered terrain, early humans. Keen observers of these changes adapted swiftly, discovering new hunting grounds, gathering areas, and safe pathways. They learned that even dramatic transformations could carry hidden benefits, if approached with patience and awareness. Sometimes, these natural events were accompanied by more mysterious signals. A sudden flash in the sky, perhaps a meteor, might illuminate the landscape in bright, fleeting light, or a low rumble beneath the ground might resonate for hours. Long after the immediate tremor has passed, humans observed these signals carefully, interpreting them not merely as hazards but as pieces of a larger puzzle, dynamic and interconnected world. The ability to perceive patterns and respond appropriately was essential for survival. Consider the experience of a small community living near a glacier-fed river. One morning, the ice begins to crack audibly, a slow but ominous groaning that carries across the valley. Animals begin to move nervously, sensing a shift that humans cannot yet fully understand. The adults watch carefully, noting subtle changes, water levels rising slightly, pieces of ice drifting downstream, birds circling above in unusual patterns. They decide to temporarily relocate, moving children and essential tools to higher ground. Later, a large ice block collapses, sending a surge of water through the valley. Because of their attentiveness, the humans remain safe. This scenario illustrates the remarkable interplay between observation, intuition, and timely action. Meteor showers also played a significant role in shaping both landscapes and human imagination. Imagine a night sky suddenly streaked with brilliant lines of light, followed by distant impacts that leave small craters and ignite fires. Early humans would likely interpret these events in multiple ways, as warnings, omens, or extraordinary spectacles to be remembered. Yet beyond interpretation, the impacts could alter the environment. Small fires reshape forested areas, soil composition changes, and animal patterns shift. Humans responded with a combination of curiosity, caution, and careful adaptation. Floods, too, were a recurring force, sometimes interacting with other events to create complex challenges. A river might swell due to glacial melt, heavy rains, or blocked channels downstream, inundating areas that were previously safe. Humans would observe rising water levels, noting debris, changes in current, and shifts in animal behavior. They would move to higher ground, protect essential food stores, and sometimes relocate entirely until the danger subsided. These recurring challenges honed skills in observation, planning, and communal coordination. Even subtle changes could hold profound lessons. Imagine noticing that a particular plant thrives in areas where ash has recently settled, or that certain animals appear in new places following a flood. These observations, repeated and shared, form the basis of a growing body of environmental knowledge. Over generations, humans learned to interpret signs, anticipate changes, and make decisions that balanced curiosity, caution, and necessity. Let us imagine another personal anecdote. A young girl walking near a river observes a flash of movement in the trees. A small herd of deer appears, fleeing upstream. She points it out to her father, who notices that the river's current has quickened slightly and debris has begun to float. The adults recognize the pattern. The glacier upstream is melting faster than usual, signaling potential flooding. The family prepares, gathering supplies and moving to a safer area. Such attentiveness, small observations leading to critical decisions, was central to survival in a world of both wonder and danger. In addition to these environmental phenomena, humans encountered the consequences of compounded natural events. A volcanic eruption might trigger glacial melts, floods, and subsequent shifts in animal populations, creating a cascade of effects. Humans needed to integrate multiple observations at once, The sky, the land, animal behavior, and water levels all provided critical clues. This ability to synthesize information from multiple sources demonstrates the early human capacity for complex reasoning and environmental awareness. These extraordinary experiences also shaped cultural practices. Round evening fires, communities would recount unusual events, sudden floods, meteors, volcanic activity, and other remarkable phenomena. These stories served multiple purposes: recording events, transmitting survival knowledge, and exploring the meaning of events that seemed mysterious or inexplicable. The stories themselves became living tools, linking observation to interpretation, experience to communal wisdom. Children listened, learned, and internalized these lessons, ensuring that knowledge persisted across generations. Imagine the quiet aftermath of a series of unusual events. The sun rises over a valley transformed by floods, ash, and melting ice. Rivers flow in new pots. Vegetation is subtly altered, and animals cautiously explore the changed terrain. Humans move deliberately, observing and testing the land. Noting new food sources and safe pathways, children practice walking along altered trails, learning which areas are stable and which might be dangerous. The landscape, though changed, continues to offer resources and opportunities for survival. Through careful observation and adaptation, humans thrive even amidst extraordinary environmental challenges, even when disasters are not catastrophic. They carry lessons and subtle shifts in the environment. A storm may leave debris that enriches the soil. A minor tremor may reveal hidden water sources, or a small meteor impact may create new habitats for plants and animals. Humans learn to recognize the interplay between destruction and renewal, danger and opportunity. These observations fostered a profound attentiveness to the world, laying the groundwork for human ingenuity, resilience, and curiosity. As we conclude this segment, it becomes clear that the prehistoric world was alive with both danger and wonder. Volcanoes, glaciers, floods, storms, and meteors, sometimes occurring in combination, sometimes rare and mysterious, shaped landscapes, influenced animal behavior, and guided human decisions. Humans of this time were not passive observers. They were deeply attentive participants, learning from each tremor, each streak of light, each flood, and each shift in the land. Their survival depended on observation, knowledge, intuition, and the careful integration of experience into communal wisdom. As we shift our focus from the vivid experiences of prehistoric humans to the reflections of science and scholarship, we begin to explore the deeper implications of these ancient disasters. Imagine standing at the edge of a valley shaped by volcanic eruptions and glacial floods. The earth layered with ash, sediment, and ice deposits. Each layer holds a story, a record of forces that shaped the land, influenced ecosystems, and tested the resilience of human communities. Archaeologists and geologists today can read these layers, deciphering the timing, intensity, and consequences of events that occurred tens of thousands of years ago. Consider volcanic eruptions, which left thick layers of ash in valleys and plains. By studying these deposits, scientists can trace the spread and scale of eruptions, revealing how humans and animals responded. Fossils found within these layers show shifts in populations, migration patterns, and even adaptations in diet and hunting strategies. For example, regions impacted by ashfall often exhibit changes in animal behavior and population density. Humans had to relocate, diversify their food sources, or develop new tools to survive in the altered environment. These physical traces give us insight not only into the event itself, but also into the remarkable adaptability of early humans. Glacial surges and retreats offer another window into human-environment interaction. Ice sheets, slowly advancing and retreating over centuries, reshaped river systems, carved valleys, and transformed ecosystems. Archaeologists can study sediment deposits, glacial striations on rocks, and fossilized remains to understand the timing and impact of these changes. Anthropologists observe that humans adapted settlement patterns to accommodate shifting water sources and changing plant and animal populations. These adaptations demonstrate a deep understanding of environmental dynamics. Even without written records or formal scientific frameworks, meteor impacts, though rarer, leave clear geological markers, craters, glacier impact rocks, and traces of fire and debris. By analyzing these markers, scientists can estimate their size, trajectory, and energy of past impacts. Interestingly, some studies suggest that meteor events may have coincided with local environmental changes, influencing animal populations and human migrations. Imagine a prehistoric family witnessing a meteor streak across the sky, then discovering its aftermath days or weeks later: glowing crater, altered water courses, and displaced wildlife. For humans of this era, these events were both terrifying and instructive, shaping behavior, settlement patterns, and cultural memory. Floods and storm events, though often transient, also left lasting marks. Sediment layers in river valleys preserve evidence of inundation, while fossilized remains show shifts in animal and human activity. Anthropologists interpret these patterns to understand how humans responded: temporary relocation, altered hunting strategies, or the construction of rudimentary shelters to withstand environmental stresses. The careful observation, adaptation, and communal learning that we've explored in earlier segments emerge clearly in the archaeological record, offering tangible evidence of human ingenuity. Beyond physical evidence, these disasters invite intriguing questions about human cognition, culture, and social structures. How did early humans process repeated exposure to danger? How did communal storytelling, observation, and shared memory shape survival strategies? Anthropologists suggest that oral traditions were essential, encoding both factual information such as the timing of seasonal floods or volcanic ashfall and interpretive knowledge, including understanding animal behavior, weather patterns, and terrain. In this way, stories served as practical guides, linking observation with experience, curiosity with survival. Archaeological findings also hint at the emotional and social dimensions of living through such events. Cave paintings, for instance, may depict not only animals and hunting scenes but also unusual natural phenomena, volcanic eruptions, unusual clouds, or celestial events. While interpretations vary, these depictions suggest a heightened awareness of environmental forces and a desire to communicate both knowledge and experience. Humans were not merely passive witnesses. They observed, interpreted, and expressed the profound impact of the natural world on daily life. Let us consider a specific example. Sediment cores extracted from ancient riverbeds reveal alternating layers of ash, silt, and organic matter. Within these layers, scientists find remnants of tools, animal bones, and occasionally human artifacts. By reconstructing these sequences, researchers can map the timing of volcanic eruptions, floods, and glacial surges, and correlate them with evidence of human activity. In some cases, abrupt changes in artifact patterns suggest temporary relocations or shifts in resource use, highlighting the adaptive strategies humans employed to cope with environmental stresses. Climate studies further enrich our understanding. Ice cores, pollen analysis, and fossilized plant remains provide insight into temperature fluctuations, rainfall patterns, and vegetation changes. These environmental reconstructions allow us to see how repeated disasters interacted with longer-term climate trends. For example, a series of volcanic eruptions might coincide with a cooler, wetter period, amplifying the challenges humans faced. Conversely, glacial retreats could create new river systems and fertile floodplains, offering opportunities alongside the risks. Humans had to navigate this dynamic landscape, balancing immediate survival with long-term planning and adaptation. Anthropologists also examined human migration patterns in relation to environmental upheavals. Regions repeatedly affected by floods, volcanic activity, or glacial advances often show evidence of temporary or permanent relocations. Migration was not random. Humans appeared to follow patterns that maximized access to resources while minimizing exposure to hazards, trails along riverbanks, elevated terrains, and sheltered valleys became favored locations. These patterns reveal a sophisticated understanding of geography, seasonal changes, and the interdependence of ecosystems. Another fascinating implication concerns human ingenuity in technology and tool use. Early humans adapted hunting tools, fire management, and shelters in response to environmental pressures. For example, ash-rich soil may have required different methods of hunting or tracking animals, while floods and glacial melts could influence the choice of materials for shelters. Tools were not just functional, they represented accumulated knowledge, creativity, and foresight, a reflection of human resilience in the face of recurring disasters. Finally, these disasters raise intriguing questions about human perception and imagination. Experiencing dramatic events, meteors streaking across the sky, mountains erupting, rivers flooding would shape both fear and curiosity. Humans likely developed early forms of symbolic thinking, connecting cause and effect, observing patterns, and interpreting signs. What we now call science may have roots in these attentive observations, oral traditions, and careful experimentation. By learning to read the environment and respond adaptively, early humans demonstrated remarkable cognitive and social capacities, laying the foundations for both survival and cultural development. As we continue exploring the implications of ancient disasters, we begin to see how interconnected the natural world was with human life and how humans, in turn, shaped their own survival strategies through observation and ingenuity. Imagine a quiet river valley at twilight, the sky painted in soft hues of pink and gold, rivers winding slowly through fertile plains, and distant mountains looming like silent sentinels. Beneath this calm surface, traces of the past remain, etched into soil, stone, and fossilized remains, waiting for a careful study to reveal their secrets. One major area of interest is how these disasters influenced human migration. When a volcanic eruption or flood rendered an area temporarily uninhabitable, humans did not merely flee, they adapted. They moved strategically, following water sources, food availability, and natural shelters. Evidence from archaeological sites shows that these migrations were deliberate and patterned. Humans often returned to previously affected regions once conditions stabilized, demonstrating both resilience and an understanding of ecological recovery. It is remarkable, too. Consider how these early communities learned to read the land in ways that allowed them to survive repeated disruptions. The archaeological record also suggests that disasters may have catalyzed technological and cultural innovation. Imagine humans observing the aftermath of a flood, riverbanks altered, fish displaced, and new plant species appearing to adapt. They may have developed specialized tools for fishing, cutting, or shelter building. Tools were refined not only for immediate survival but also to anticipate recurring environmental challenges. This pattern trial, adaptation, and refinement reflects an early form of problem-solving and experimentation. It is a reminder that adversity often sparks creativity. Even tens of thousands of years ago, another intriguing implication concerns or structures and collaboration. disasters demanded coordination, relocating families, protecting children, sharing resources, and communicating environmental observations. Communities that developed cooperative strategies had a higher chance of survival. These events may have strengthened social bonds, reinforced trust, and cultivated skills in leadership and collective decision-making, observing and interpreting. Environmental cues became a shared responsibility, and oral traditions ensured that knowledge was preserved across generations. We can also reflect on the interplay between disasters and belief systems. While we cannot know exactly how humans interpreted meteors, volcanic eruptions, or glacial surges, the archaeological record provides hints, symbolic representations in cave art, carvings, and early rituals suggest that humans imbued extraordinary natural events with meaning. A glowing meteor streaking across the sky, for example, may have been perceived as a celestial message or a warning, woven into communal stories that carried both practical lessons and cultural significance. In this way, environmental observation, imagination, and interpretation were inseparable. Scientific theories today allow us to connect specific disasters to broader patterns. By studying sediment layers, volcanic deposits, glacial striations, and meteor craters, researchers reconstruct events with remarkable precision. For instance, a sequence of volcanic eruptions may correlate with cooler climate periods, while glacial advances may coincide with shifts in vegetation and animal populations. These correlations illuminate the ways in which multiple natural forces intersected, creating challenges that humans needed to navigate with both practical knowledge and intuitive reasoning. Consider the role of cognitive development. Repeated exposure to unpredictable events likely enhanced problem-solving abilities, memory, and attention to detail. Imagine a young observer noticing subtle signs in animal behavior or weather patterns, sharing insights with elders, and learning to anticipate risks. These repeated lessons, encoded in both practice and oral storytelling, reinforced mental skills crucial for survival over millennia. Such experiences may have contributed to the development of abstract thought, symbolic reasoning, and even early forms of scientific thinking. Anthropologists also explore the idea that these environmental challenges shaped culture in profound ways. Storytelling, ritual, and symbolic expression often incorporated natural phenomena, blending practical knowledge with cultural meaning. Communities that experienced volcanic eruptions, floods, or meteor events may have crafted stories to teach lessons, commemorate survival, or explain the inexplicable. These narratives preserved essential survival knowledge while also fostering shared identity and communal memory. In essence, disasters were not only physical events, they were catalysts for a cultural evolution. Compelling what-if scenario invites us to imagine the human mind at work during these events. Picture family observing a meteor impact from a distance, smoke rising in the valley, and animals fleeing. While fear would naturally rise, curiosity would follow. How large was the impact? How did it change the environment? What patterns can be learned for the future? These questions illustrate an early form of scientific inquiry, born from direct engagement with the natural world. Observation, interpretation, and hypothesis-making were inseparable from survival itself. Even in the quiet aftermath, the lessons continued. A flood might leave behind nutrient-rich soil, creating opportunities for new plant growth. A glacial retreat could open previously inaccessible areas for foraging or settlement early. Humans observed these subtle signs, integrating them into long-term strategies for resource management, settlement planning, and risk mitigation. Their attentiveness created a feedback loop. The more they observed, the better they adapted, and the more their cultural knowledge deepened. Finally, These ancient disasters invite reflection on human resilience and ingenuity, despite unpredictable and sometimes catastrophic forces. Early humans thrived. They developed tools, social networks, migration strategies, and knowledge systems that allowed them to respond to extraordinary challenges. Their survival depended not merely on chance, but on a profound attentiveness to the world around them, a careful reading of patterns, cycles, and anomalies. This attentiveness, passed down through generations, forms the foundation of much that we now understand about human intelligence, culture, and adaptability. As we move toward the final reflections of this exploration, it becomes clear that the disasters of 50,000 years ago shaped much more than the physical landscape. They shaped human perception, culture, and cognition in profound ways. Imagine standing on a quiet hilltop at dusk, overlooking valleys molded by glaciers, rivers, and eruptions. The air carries the earthy scent of soil, the subtle rustle of distant animals, and the gentle whisper of wind across leaves. In this serene setting, one can sense the traces of the past, layered within the environment like pages of an ancient book, each layer telling stories of challenge, adaptation, and ingenuity. One striking implication is the resilience of early humans in the face of repeated environmental stresses. Communities developed intricate survival strategies. Balancing immediate needs with long-term planning, consider the deliberate relocation of families. In response to rising rivers or ashfall, observing animal behavior, water levels, and atmospheric changes informed these decisions. Over time, these strategies were refined and passed down through generations, becoming part of a sophisticated system of environmental knowledge, in essence. Survival was not simply a matter of reaction, it was a careful, attentive, and creative engagement with the world. Technology and tool use also evolved in response to disasters, reinforcing the human capacity for problem solving. Imagine a group noticing that a river's course has shifted after a glacial melt. They may develop new fishing techniques, devise tools for moving debris, or experiment with temporary shelters. The interplay between environmental challenges and technological innovation illustrates an important principle. Adversity often sparks creativity. In these moments, necessity and curiosity converge, producing solutions that are both practical and ingenious. Anthropologists note that disasters also likely reinforced social cohesion. Survival often depended on collaboration, sharing resources, coordinating responses, and teaching younger generations to observe subtle environmental cues. These experiences fostered trust, leadership, and collective memory. Storytelling, rituals, and shared observation became tools for reinforcing community bonds while transmitting vital survival knowledge. In this way, disasters shaped not only human interaction with nature, but also the evolution of social structures and culture itself. Another compelling consideration is the role of imagination and symbolic thinking. Witnessing meteors streak across the sky, volcanic eruptions, or dramatic floods would have evoked awe, fear, and curiosity. Early humans may have sought to explain these events, connecting cause and effect, predicting patterns, and sharing interpretations through oral traditions. These stories were both practical and symbolic. They guided behavior, preserved knowledge, and nurtured a sense of shared understanding. In essence, human imagination was inseparable from survival, blending observation with reflection and curiosity with learning. Scientific perspectives today allow us to connect these ancient experiences to broader patterns in human evolution by examining sediment layers, fossilized remains, and archaeological artifacts. Researchers reconstruct not only the timing and scale of disasters, but also human responses. Migrations, shifts in settlement, technological adaptation, and social coordination are all visible in the record. These findings highlight the remarkable ingenuity and attentiveness of early humans, revealing a species capable of thriving even amidst extraordinary environmental challenges. Consider, for instance, a valley repeatedly impacted by volcanic ashfall. Early humans in this region would have learned to observe patterns, wind direction, ash density, and animal responses to anticipate and respond to eruptions. Tools and shelters were adapted accordingly, settlement strategies refined, and knowledge encoded into stories over generations. These experiences cultivated not only practical skills, but also a profound understanding of environmental dynamics. Humans were actively shaping and interpreting their world, responding to complexity with insight and foresight. Another interesting dimension lies in the interplay between disasters and human cognition. Repeated exposure to unpredictable events required observation, memory, and interpretation. Children learned to recognize subtle signs in the environment. Adults synthesized information across multiple domains, and communities shared knowledge collectively. These cognitive demands may have contributed to the development of abstract thought, problem solving, and symbolic reasoning. In this sense, disasters were not merely challenges, they were catalysts for intellectual and cultural growth. Reflecting on these implications, one cannot help but wonder about the what-if scenarios. What if early humans had not developed attentive observation skills or cooperative social structures? What if disasters had overwhelmed their adaptive strategies? And yet, the archaeological record shows resilience, adaptation, and ingenuity. Humans survived, learned, and flourished, gradually shaping both their environment and their cultural identity. These reflections remind us of the enduring power of observation, learning, and collaboration in the face of uncertainty. Finally, we can consider the broader philosophical perspective. Disasters remind us of the delicate balance between fragility and resilience, chaos and order. Early humans lived intimately with these forces, responding with care, attention, and ingenuity. In the quiet aftermath of an eruption, a flood, or a glacial shift, humans observed the land, noted patterns, and adapted strategies for survival. They were not merely passive recipients of fate. They were active participants in a world of extraordinary complexity. Their experiences teach us about the interdependence of observation, knowledge, and action, lessons that resonate even in our modern lives. As we prepare to transition to our gentle conclusion, we can imagine one last scene, a family seated near a riverbank, the sun setting behind distant mountains, birds returning to their nests, and the soft murmur of flowing water. They reflect on the day's events, observing subtle changes in the land, the behavior of animals, and the patterns of weather. In these moments of quiet attentiveness, we can sense the continuity of human resilience, curiosity, and adaptation, a thread connecting us across tens of thousands of years. From prehistoric landscapes to our present understanding, as we reach the final chapters of our journey through time, we can pause to reflect on the remarkable stories of survival, adaptation, and wonder that unfolded 50,000 years ago. Imagine standing on a quiet plain at dusk, the last golden light glimmering across rolling hills, a soft breeze rustling the grass, and the gentle murmur of a distant river. In this peaceful scene, one can almost feel the echoes of those ancient lives, the careful observation, the quiet decisions, and the resilience that allowed humans to navigate a world shaped by extraordinary natural forces. Throughout our exploration, we have witnessed a landscape alive with movement and transformation. Volcanoes erupted, rivers shifted course, glaciers advanced and retreated. Meteors streaked across the sky, and storms swept through valleys. Each event was dramatic in its own right. Yet it was the compounded interactions of these forces that created the most profound challenges. Humans, in turn, responded with ingenuity, observation, and cooperation, turning moments of potential danger into opportunities for learning and adaptation. Consider the daily life of a family in this prehistoric world. They may wake to find a river, swollen with glacial melt, or they may notice smoke on the horizon from a distant volcanic eruption. Their survival depended on careful observation, subtle understanding of the environment, and swift, thoughtful action. They learned to interpret the behavior of animals, the movement of water, and the patterns of weather through these experiences. Humans cultivated skills that were practical, cognitive, and social, blending survival with learning, adaptation with creativity. These stories of human ingenuity are not only about survival, they are about connection. Connection to the land, to the rhythms of nature, and to one another. Families shared observations, taught children to notice small but vital details, and preserved lessons through storytelling and ritual. Communities coordinated responses to environmental challenges, developing trust, leadership, and collective memory. Even in the face of fear and uncertainty, humans discovered the power of collaboration and attentiveness, weaving these lessons into the fabric of their daily lives. Science today allows us to trace these ancient patterns, revealing how humans responded to extraordinary events. Sediment layers, volcanic deposits, glacial striations, meteor craters, and fossilized remains tell a story of resilience, adaptation, and ingenuity. Anthropologists and archaeologists piece together these fragments, showing us that early humans were not passive observers, they were thoughtful, attentive, and capable of sophisticated strategies. Each piece of evidence offers a glimpse into a world both challenging and awe-inspiring, a world where survival required careful integration of knowledge, intuition, and experience. It is also worth reflecting on the emotional and imaginative dimensions of these ancient lives. Witnessing a meteor streak across the sky, a glacier slowly cracking, or a river flooding its banks would have evoked awe, curiosity, and perhaps fear. Humans of this era interpreted these events, created stories, and passed lessons down through generations. These narratives were both practical and symbolic, preserving survival knowledge while nurturing a sense of shared understanding. In this way, observation, imagination, and culture were inseparable, guiding both action and reflection. Even amid the challenges, humans found moments of quiet beauty and insight. The soft glow of sunlight on newly deposited as the delicate patterns of frost on a glacial surface, or the gentle ripple of a river after a flood, all offered reminders that the world, while powerful and unpredictable, could also inspire wonder. In these moments, humans observed, reflected, and learned, balancing caution with curiosity, fear with appreciation, and survival with contemplation. As we imagine the lives of these ancient communities, we can also draw connections to our own experiences. The attentiveness, adaptability, and collaborative spirit of early humans remind us of the timeless importance of observation, curiosity, and resilience. Just as they learned to read the subtle signs of their environment, we too can cultivate awareness of the world around us, its rhythms, patterns, and moments of beauty. These lessons from the past continue to resonate, offering insight into both human nature and our enduring connection to the natural world. Picture, for a moment, a calm evening after a day of extraordinary events. The sky is painted in soft purples and oranges. A gentle breeze stirs the leaves, and the distant river murmurs quietly. Families settle by a fire, sharing stories of the day's observations, recounting events that challenged them, and reflecting on what they learned. Children listen closely, absorbing not just information, but also the wisdom of attentiveness, patience, and adaptation. This simple yet profound practice, observing, reflecting, sharing, is a thread that connects us across tens of thousands of years. In these concluding moments, we can also consider the subtle lessons embedded in the stories of ancient disasters. Change is constant, sometimes dramatic, sometimes gradual. Challenges are inevitable, yet human resilience rooted in observation, adaptation, and collaboration offers pathways through uncertainty. Every action, every careful observation, every shared story contributes to survival and growth. The ancient world teaches us that even in the face of powerful forces, humans have the capacity to learn, adapt, and thrive. Finally, as we let our minds drift gently from these prehistoric landscapes, we can imagine the enduring rhythm of life. Rivers continue to flow, winds whisper across plains, and mountains stand silently as they have for millennia. Humans, both ancient and modern, navigate these forces with attentiveness, curiosity, and resilience. By reflecting on the stories of 50,000 years ago, we gain not only knowledge of the past, but also insight into the qualities that allow us to face the present and the future with calm, awareness, and hope. So let us take a deep breath and release it slowly, imagining the quiet serenity of a landscape shaped by time, resilience, and adaptation. The ancient world was alive with movement, challenges, and wonder, yet humans through observation, ingenuity, and shared wisdom navigated it with care and attentiveness. And in this reflection, we too can find a sense of calm, continuity, and gentle understanding. The stories of the past are not only history, they are a meditation on survival, curiosity, and the enduring human spirit. As our journey through the ancient world draws to a close, we can take a moment to simply breathe and reflect. Imagine the soft hush of twilight spreading across a vast, prehistoric landscape. Mountains rise in gentle silhouettes against a fading sky, rivers meander quietly through valleys, and a distant forest whispers with the movements of nocturnal creatures. In this serene scene, it is easy to feel connected not just to the land itself, but to the countless human lives that unfolded here tens of thousands of years ago. Throughout our exploration, we have traced the story of a world in constant motion. Volcanic eruptions reshaped valleys, glaciers carved out new terrains, meteors streaked across the sky, and rivers flooded their banks. Each event was a reminder of the extraordinary power of nature, and each response by early humans a testament to ingenuity, resilience, and adaptability. Humans observed, learned, and shared knowledge, weaving survival strategies into daily life and cultural memory. This interplay between environment and human action forms a rhythm that is both ancient and enduring. Imagine a family settling near a softly flowing river at the end of a long day. They notice subtle changes in the land, the way the water ripples, the scent of earth after a light rain, the distant calls of birds returning to their nests. The elders share stories of past floods, volcanic eruptions, and unusual celestial events, recounting how communities survived and adapted. Children listen with quiet attention, absorbing lessons not only of survival but also of observation, patience, and curiosity. This is a world in which knowledge and care are inseparable from daily life. Even in the face of uncertainty, early humans found moments of beauty and reflection. The glow of sunrise on snow-capped peaks, the gentle ripple of a river after a storm, or the soft rustle of leaves in the evening breeze all offered reminders of the world's subtle grace. In these quiet moments, resilience and mindfulness were as essential as tools and shelters. Modern science allows us to piece together these stories, revealing the intricate patterns of human adaptation. Anthropologists and geologists reconstruct landscapes and climates, uncovering evidence of migration, technological innovation, social cooperation, and cultural continuity. By understanding how early humans navigated a world of extraordinary change, We gained insight into the origins of problem-solving, observation, and collective learning. One of the most profound lessons of these ancient events is the power of attentiveness. Humans who survived volcanic eruptions, floods, and glacial advances did so because they observed carefully, responded thoughtfully, and shared knowledge within their communities. They noticed patterns in the movement of animals, the rise and fall of rivers, and subtle shifts in the weather. Every observation was a thread in a larger web of understanding, connecting immediate experiences to long-term survival. In this way, observation itself became a tool, a guide, and a form of wisdom. We can also reflect on the enduring emotional and imaginative dimensions of early human life. Witnessing dramatic natural events, meteors, storms, eruptions would have stirred fear, wonder, and curiosity. Humans interpreted these events, created stories, and passed lessons down through generations. These stories were not only practical, but also symbolic, encoding both knowledge and a sense of shared meaning. Observation, imagination, and culture worked together, shaping human behavior and forging a sense of community across time. Perhaps the same constellations that guided humans tens of thousands of years ago are visible, reminding us that the universe has watched over countless generations. Early humans would have gazed at these same stars, seeking patterns, comfort, and guidance. The natural world, with all its power and unpredictability, was both a teacher and a companion. Humans learned to navigate not only the land, but also the rhythms of time, season, and sky. In this final reflection, we can consider the subtle wisdom embedded in the ancient world. In a sense, every challenge, every storm, and every dramatic event became a teacher, imparting lessons that endured across generations. Imagine a soft, final evening breeze brushing across a quiet valley. The land has been shaped by time, force, and resilience, yet it exudes calm and continuity. Humans of the past moved carefully through this world, leaving traces of their lives in stone, soil, and story. Their experiences remind us that attentiveness, curiosity, and adaptation are timeless qualities, connecting us to the rhythms of nature and the legacy of countless generations before us. As we conclude this gentle journey, allow yourself to feel the quiet serenity of this ancient world. The rivers continue to flow, mountains stand silently against the sky, and the wind whispers through the trees. Humans, then as now, navigated these forces with care, observation, and ingenuity. By reflecting on their stories, we find insight, calm, and connection, a reminder that the past and present are linked through resilience, curiosity, and the enduring human spirit. Now, let us take a final, deep breath together. Inhale slowly, feeling the calm strength of the earth beneath you, the quiet flow of time, and the subtle beauty of life unfolding. Exhale gently, releasing tension and embracing a sense of continuity and peace. The ancient world, with all its wonder and challenge, now rests alongside us in stillness, a world that teaches, inspires, and soothes, and with that, our journey comes to a gentle close. May the stories, reflections, and calm imagery of these ancient landscapes accompany you into rest, leaving a lingering sense of awe, resilience, and quiet connection with the natural world.